You know that feeling when you wake up and the weight hits you before your eyes even open? Something broke inside you recently. Maybe it was a loss. Maybe it was a betrayal. Maybe it was just the slow crumbling of something you built for years. You lie there staring at the ceiling. The world outside keeps moving. People laugh, cars honk, but inside you, everything has gone quiet. Not peaceful quiet, the quiet after something shatters. You feel hollow. You feel tired in a way sleep cannot fix. And the strangest part is nobody around you truly sees it. You still show up, you still nod, you still say you are fine, but you are not fine. Something in you broke, and you do not know what to do with the pieces. Here is the thing most people never tell you. Being broken is not the end of your story. It never was. Over 2,000 years ago, the Buddha sat beneath a tree after losing everything. His comfort, his title, his family, his entire identity. And from that place of total loss, he found something no amount of comfort could ever give. He did not find answers by running from pain. He found them by sitting still inside it. What you are going through right now is not punishment. It is not proof that life is unfair. According to Buddhist teaching, it is the exact doorway most people walk past. This is what the video is truly about, not how to escape your pain, but what to do when life has already broken you open. The first thing to understand is that you are not broken in the way you think. You feel damaged. You feel like something inside you cracked and can never be repaired. But the Buddha taught that suffering is not a flaw in life, it is the nature of life. He called it the first noble truth, dukkha. Life contains suffering, not because something went wrong, but because that is how it works. Rain falls, things change, people leave, health fades, plans collapse. This is not cruelty, it is simply the truth of being alive. You look around and see others smiling. You assume their lives are whole and yours is shattered, but that is a trick your pain plays on you. Everyone carries cracks, some just hide them better. There is an old story about a woman who lost her child. She ran to the Buddha begging for a miracle. He told her to bring him a mustard seed, but only from a house that had never known death. She went door to door. Every single home had a story of loss. She never found that seed, but she found something deeper. She realized suffering was not hers alone. It belonged to every human heart. When you feel broken, you feel isolated. You feel like the world moved on and left you behind. But your pain is not strange. It is ancient. It connects you to every person who ever lived and lost. Knowing this does not erase the hurt, but it loosens the loneliness wrapped around it. You are not the only one who has felt this way. You never were. The next thing that happens when life breaks you is the urge to fight it. You want to push the pain down. You want to distract yourself. You grab your phone, you stay busy, you keep the lights on and the noise loud. Anything to avoid sitting with what you feel. But the Buddha compared this to holding a hot coal. The tighter you grip it, the deeper it burns. Resistance is a natural reaction. Nobody wants to feel pain, but resisting it does not make it go away. It just makes it louder. It finds new ways to surface, maybe through anger, maybe through numbness, maybe through habits you never had before. A monk once asked his teacher why his sadness would not leave. The teacher said it was because he kept closing the door every time it knocked. Sadness does not break down doors, it just waits. And while it waits, you exhaust yourself holding the door shut. There is another way. You can let it in, not to destroy you, but to sit with you. Just for a moment, not forever. When you stop resisting what you feel, something strange happens. The pain does not grow, it actually softens. It loses its sharpness, because pain gains power from your fear of it. When you face it gently, it becomes just a feeling. Heavy, yes, but no longer a monster. You do not have to love your suffering, but you can stop running from it long enough to let it speak. And when it speaks, you might hear something you were not expecting. Pain often carries a message, not a punishment, a message. The Buddha said that suffering has a cause. This is the second noble truth. And the cause is not the event itself, it is the attachment you had to the way things were supposed to be. You had a picture of your life, a relationship that would last, a career that would grow, a body that would stay strong, a person who would stay. And when that picture was torn apart, the pain was not just about the loss, it was about the gap between what you expected and what actually happened. This does not mean your feelings are wrong, they are deeply real. But understanding attachment helps you see the full shape of your pain. There is a difference between grieving a loss and grieving a fantasy. Sometimes you mourn not just what was taken, but what was never going to last in the first place. A traveler once asked a monk why the flowers in the temple garden were not protected from wind. The monk said, if you cage a flower, it dies slower but lonelier. Some things are meant to bloom, sway, and fall. Your attachment did not cause your suffering because you were weak. It caused suffering because you loved something deeply, and love in this world always carries the risk of loss. Understanding this does not make the pain vanish, but it gives you a place to put it down. There's a habit that grows when you are hurting. It is the habit of replaying. You go over what happened again and again. You replay conversations. You rethink decisions. You build 100 different versions of how things could have gone, and each replay cuts fresh. The Buddha called this mental pattern papanka, the mind's tendency to spin and multiply. One thought leads to another. One memory hooks onto a feeling. That feeling triggers a story, and soon you are lost in a storm you created inside your own head. This does not mean your pain is imaginary. It means your mind is adding layers to it. You are not just carrying what happened. You are carrying every version your mind invented after it happened. A Buddhist teacher once told a student to hold a glass of water. After 1 minute, it was light. After 10, it ached. After an hour, it became unbearable. The water did not change. The holding did. Your memories are that glass. They only grow heavier the longer you refuse to set them down. You do not need to forget, but you need to stop replaying. Every time you notice the loop starting, take one slow breath. Name what you feel. Say it simply. Sadness, anger, fear. That small act pulls you out of the spin. It brings you back to now, right here, not back there. Here is something else that happens when life breaks you. You start telling yourself a story, a dangerous one. The story goes like this. You deserved it. You were not smart enough, not careful enough, not lovable enough. This is the voice of shame, and it disguises itself as truth. But the Buddha taught that the self you are punishing does not even exist the way you think it does. He taught anatta, the idea that there is no fixed, unchanging self. You are not one thing forever. You are a process, always shifting, always becoming. The person who made that mistake is not the same person sitting here now. Your cells changed, your awareness changed, even your thoughts changed. So who exactly are you blaming? You are punishing a ghost, a version of yourself that no longer exists. A student once said to his teacher, "I am a failure." The teacher said, "Show me this failure. Where does it live? In your hand? In your chest?" The student could not point to it because it was not a thing. It was a story, and stories can be rewritten. You do not have to carry the identity of a broken person. You can grieve without becoming grief. You can hurt without becoming hurt. Pain is something passing through you. It is not who you are. Now let us talk about something people rarely mention. When life breaks you, your relationship with others changes. You pull back, you cancel plans, you smile less, and slowly a wall goes up. Not because you want to be alone, but because being around people feels exhausting. You feel like nobody understands, and maybe they do not. But isolation feeds darkness. The Buddha did not teach alone in a cave. He walked with a community. He called it the Sangha. He said spiritual friendship is the whole of the path, not half, the whole. You do not need someone who fixes you. You need someone who sits with you, even in silence, even without answers. There is a story of a monk who lost his closest friend. He sat in silence for days. Another monk came and sat beside him, did not speak, did not offer wisdom, just sat. After a week, the grieving monk said that presence alone gave him more than any words could. You are not a burden for needing others, and you are not weak for reaching out. The wall you build to protect yourself is the same wall that locks you in. Let one person in, just one, not to save you, just to remind you that you still exist in someone else's world. There is also the question of meaning. When life breaks you, the question comes fast. Why did this happen to me? You search for a reason, you look at the sky, you demand an answer. But the Buddha did not promise meaning. He promised understanding. There is a famous story of a man struck by a poisoned arrow. He refused treatment until he knew who shot it, what the bow was made of, why they aimed at him. The Buddha said this man would die before getting those answers. Some pain does not come with a reason you can hold, and waiting for one keeps the wound open. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is accept that you may never know why. Not because the universe is cruel, but because not everything follows a story. Some things just happen, and healing begins not when you find the reason, but when you stop needing one. Let the question go, not because it is not valid, but because holding it too long becomes its own kind of suffering. Peace does not always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from releasing the question. Something quiet begins to happen when you stop fighting your pain. You start to notice small things again. The warmth of sunlight through a window, the weight of a blanket at night, the taste of your morning tea. These are not big moments. They are tiny, but they matter. The Buddha called this kind of awareness mindfulness, not a technique, a way of being. When you are broken, the mind pulls you to the past or pushes you to the future, but healing happens here, in this breath, in this step, in this small moment of noticing. A monk once said the whole of Buddhist practice is this: when you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you cry, just cry. Do not add a story. Do not project tomorrow. Just be with what is. You do not need to heal all at once. You do not need to feel better today. You just need to feel this moment, fully, without running, and then the next, and then the next. That is how people rebuild, not with grand plans, not with dramatic changes, with small, honest moments of presence. The crack in your heart is not a flaw, it is the opening through which awareness enters. And that awareness, that gentle noticing, is where the rebuilding begins. Not outside you, inside you. Let us talk about letting go. You have probably heard this phrase 1,000 times, let it go, but nobody tells you how. And honestly, it is not a single act. It is not something you do once and it is done. The Buddha compared letting go to putting down a heavy load after a long walk. You do not throw it, you set it down gently, one piece at a time. Today, maybe you let go of one thought. Tomorrow, one memory. Next week, one expectation. It is not about speed, it is about willingness. And sometimes, letting go feels like loss all over again, because you are releasing a part of your life. Even a painful part was still yours. There is grief in letting go, and that is okay. It means you are honest. A teacher once said, "You do not let go because you are strong. You let go because you are tired of carrying." That is enough reason. You do not need courage. You need exhaustion. You need the honest admission that holding on is costing you more than it gives. And once you start putting things down, your hands open. And open hands can receive again. They can hold new things, softer things, but only once the old weight is released. There is one more thing that matters deeply: forgiveness. Not the kind people talk about in greeting cards, real forgiveness, the messy kind. The kind where you forgive someone who never apologized, or you forgive yourself for something you cannot undo. The Buddha said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. You have heard that before, but have you truly felt it? Every moment you hold resentment, you carry two loads, the original pain and the bitterness about the pain. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It is saying you refuse to let it own your future. A woman once came to a Buddhist teacher furious at someone who betrayed her. The teacher asked how long ago it happened. She said 5 years. The teacher said the betrayal lasted 1 day. You gave it 5 years. That moment stayed with her, not because it was clever, but because it was true. You are not betraying your pain by forgiving. You are freeing yourself from the echo of it. Forgiveness is not a gift for them. It is breathing room for you. And so here you are, still standing. Maybe not the way you were before, but still here. The Buddha once said, just as the great ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so too this teaching has one taste, the taste of freedom. Freedom does not mean the absence of pain. It means pain no longer controls where you go. You were broken? Maybe you still are. But broken does not mean finished. It means something old fell away. And now there is space. Space for something new, something truer, something closer to who you were always becoming. You do not have to rush. You do not have to pretend. You just have to keep breathing, keep noticing, keep being here. That is enough. That was always enough.